In the first video in this series, I showed you how to use n8n to come up with book ideas that address specific pain points that people are having. We use Reddit to come up with the subreddit, the comments, and scrape all this information, then feed it into n8n and get book ideas. And by the end of that video, we were able to create something that looks like this, which is a bunch of book ideas that people would be interested in reading because they are actual problems that people are suffering from. In our case, we're building this n8n book YouTube, so we had all these ideas that we can then hit the write book button and then proceed with. So what I want to show you in this second video is how to take this idea further, how to hook this button up to n8n and the workflow right here, which takes you from this simple table to having something that looks like this right here. So we'll have the chapter name generated and we'll have the chapter outline generated as well, with each chapter outline having a bunch of sub chapters within that particular chapter. So this is what I'm going to show you and build together in this video. Before we do, I'm just going to delete this as I was testing some stuff out and we can get started here. So the first thing we need to do is go to n8n. I'm going to, should I save this? That's the question. Let's actually leave without saving. And I'm going to duplicate this so I have it on my other screen and create a new workflow right here. And what we're going to do is start this by having a webhook. So what we want is we want to be able to call this n8n flow when we press the button in Airtable, because that will be the start of the whole scenario, of the whole workflow. And in order to do that, what we must do is grab this test URL here, go to our Airtable, and I'm just going to replace, so this would look like this when you start, right? We have an open URL. I'm just going to paste in my n8n webhook, put a question mark, and just type in record or rec ID equals, and then outside of the quote, I'm just going to pass along this record ID. So this will send the information right here to my n8n webhook. So if I go here and I press listen for test event, we should get this workflow was started confirmation, which is great because what we want is to be able to get the information here. And now we can go to Airtable and grab the book title. So here I'm going to get a record. I'm going to choose my list, which is the n8n YouTube book YouTube. My table is called table 1. And I'm just going to test this step. Oh yeah, obviously I need to pass along the record ID from the webhook, which is this right here. So test step, and we got the title right here. Now, one thing you could do is, instead of having multiple steps where you are sending the information to the webhook and then grabbing the information from Airtable, we could send the information directly to n8n when the webhook is triggered. However, I just like to do it in 2 steps so I can have more control and can see what is happening at each step of the process. So that's a simple reason why I like doing that. So back here, the next thing we're going to do is take the book title here, and we want to create the different chapters for this book, right? But one thing we must do before we do that is to create a space where we're going to save the chapters that we generate. So here I want to create a new table, and it will have the information about this book, the chapters, and eventually the actual write-up for each of those chapters. In order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here, and I'm just going to, first of all, close all these right here. Close other tabs. And if I look at Airtable API, there is this Airtable Create Table Web API, which allows you to pass this endpoint using the method post, and then you'll be able to send information in terms of what you want to create as the table name, which is this right here, along with the different fields that you would have in your table. So this is what we will need to do next. So here I'm just going to create an HTTP node. I'm going to import curl, paste that in, and now we have a bunch of information we need to fill in. So we have the base ID we need to replace, we need to specify our bearer token, and we need to provide the information in terms of what we're trying to create with our table. So what we know, let's start from the end here, is that first of all, instead of name being apartments, the name needs to be our book title right there, right? So we can just insert that in our Airtable. We need to switch to expression here. And now the value will be JSON.book title, essentially. So that will be the name of the table that we are creating. We know that we probably don't want the description to be name of the apartment. Let me see what I have here. So here I have chapter name, chapter outline, chapter detail. I have done, and I have formatted text. Now, when I was creating this, I was running into issues with this done field. When I was trying to create it here, like so, it was running into issues. So, yeah, I'm not sure if this has been fixed or if it was a one-time thing, but let's see if I'll manage to make this work. So instead of name of apartment, we have chapter name, which is a single line text. And actually, I want to paste that in there. So it's a name rather than a description. Then we have, instead of single line text, we want the multi-line version, which is this long text right here. So if I go back to my Airtable here, there are the field types that are supported. And that will be multi-line text, that one in there. So I'm going to paste that in. And I believe I need 2 or 3. So I have chapter outline, chapter detail, and formatted text. So chapter outline, multi-line text, great. Let's copy this. Chapter outline, chapter detail, and formatted text. Great. Then we want to have something called done. So let me test this to see if it will work. And that will be a type checkbox. The name is good. Let's just confirm this is correct JSON. Great. And what I'm going to do off screen is insert my bearer token right here. And I think, yeah, and I also need to insert my base ID. So if you go to Airtable API, web, something like that, this will give you all the information about the database ID for your specific Airtable. So I'm just going to do that off camera, insert the information right here, this, and keep going with the recording. Okay, so let's test this out. Okay, your request is embedded or will be processed by the service. I think that's the same issue that I was facing when trying to create that done checkbox for some reason. So this is very weird type of issue. So we just confirm. Check, yeah, it should be a checkbox. Single line email, multi-line number, percent, currency, single select. I don't really want it to be, it could be a multiple or a single select, I guess. But a checkbox would be much easier. Airtable, I believe, yeah, it is a checkbox, right? Image, yeah, it should be a checkbox. Let's go with a multiple select. And the thing is, though, why would you have different options for a checkbox? Great green. I can, okay, yeah, because you could have. So let's just follow this and try to use a multi-select. Not sure if there's information here about how to do it. Update, create. Let's look at update table. Type checkbox. Type grid, yeah. Let's try to go with a multi-select here. So here what I'm going to do is, instead of type checkbox, I'm going to have done, going to call this multi-select, and I'm not sure if this is the correct way of doing it, to be honest, but let's see. Let's assume this is option 1, and that will be option 2. We'll have a comma there, and let's say we have to do, we have done. So here, let's change this to status. Just delete this, and name is status, options are to do, done, and type is multi-select. Looks good. Let's go back to JSON lint, paste, validate, and we have some problem here. So expecting colon. I think this, yeah, there should be an array then. Let's see. Nope. So options, to do, and done. How to create Airtable multi-select with API. Or let's just see if ChatGPT knows about this. What's wrong with trying to create a multi-select in Airtable? Like using the debug number. The correct placement of the type in the status field. Type multi-select should be type multi-select options. Okay, let's grab this. And here what I have, so name status, type multi-select. Okay, options. Okay, so this is putting it, I don't know. I'm not sure why it wasn't working earlier then. So let's see that, and base on lint, paste. Okay, so let's grab that, paste that in there, and let's try running this once more. Okay, so let's try that. Yep, it's still invalid. So I'm just going to remove the option to create that multi-select. Okay, so like so, this is correct JSON. So let's see if this will work without that multi-select and just the single entry multi-line texts. So let's run this. Yep, and this created our, let's refresh, our book title Airtable. Now the problem is that the name is book title, but what I want is to actually pass this information. So here what I need to do, instead of having book title as the variable, is I want to pass along the JSON.bookTitle, and that should get it to work well. Okay, so let's test this out again. And if we go back here, yes, we get the table that we want. For now, I'm just going to create the done column. It's going to be a checkbox. And let's just create that field. So now we have that. So the next step is to take this title and create the chapters for it. And for that, I'm just going to go to DeepSeek. I'm going to create a chat completion, and I'm just going to pass along this prompt that I have right here. So I'm going to choose the model, I'm going to add a prompt, change to expression, and I'm going to paste this, create a book outline for this topic. Now, obviously, this needs to change because it will be JSON dot, technically is the book title from here. So let me remember how to do this. So it's JSON dot, I believe if you include that, book title. Oh yeah, so it's Airtable dot item dot JSON dot book title. So create that, and I'm saying don't include this, like the backticks at the start or at the end. Start with that and finish with that. Each chapter must be on one line only. So this should create an array using that information. So let's test the step. Hopefully we'll get, yes, the chapters right here. So the next thing we need to do is just break this down into separate items. The first thing is we're going to convert this into an array. So technically, I think if we just do that, convert to array, this should create our array called content. And now we want to split this out into the different items that we have. So here, if I just drag in content, we just get 10 items as output. So these are the 10 chapters in our book. The next thing we want to do is create the outline for each chapter. So here, we just created create chapters, right? Next, what we want to do, let's just spin this here, is duplicate this, and we want to not create chapters this time, but create the outline, or create outlines for chapters. So this will run 10 times because we're passing 10 values into it. And the prompt right here will be the following. So I'm just going to say, create a chapter outline for this topic within a book about this bigger topic. So the chapter topic will be the JSON.chapter, like chapter 1, chapter 2, etc. The book topic will be the stuff we got from Airtable. So if I go JSON Airtable, is it like that? JSON Airtable dot, nope. Eventually, managed JSON, yeah, okay, there's no JSON at the beginning. Okay, so it's directly, yeah. So it's a variable, $sign, then we go to Airtable, and then it's the item.json. Okay, that's interesting, it's not pulling that up. So if I go book title, oh yeah, because I forgot, I guess, to add, no? Okay, probably to execute that then. Because here it's embedded syntax and this is can't determine. Which is, okay, makes sense since there was no code there. Okay, so let's leave it as that for now. So here I have an example of how it goes, of what I want. It's like, give me the different like sub points for each chapter. Then as I mentioned, don't mention further reading or resources as part of the outline. Because I noticed that was one thing I was getting when I was trying to create this earlier. And the last thing I need to do is save this information into Airtable. So I want to create a record where I'm going to do two things. In order to create Airtable, I'm going to create a record, and in my base called n8n YouTube book, I want to go via ID this time, because this will always be different since I just created this new table. So I just drag this in there. And okay, no columns found in our table. Let's retry that. Why is that? N8n book library. Okay. By ID. Weird. No columns found in our table. N8n book library. And this should be able to pick this out. Because if I go by list, yes, that is picking it out. So why is it not? Okay, now we got this there. So let's try this again. Okay. For some reason, we have a different ID right there. I guess when I ran it earlier. So I think, so let's choose this here. I remember I ran into this issue when I was trying this earlier. So if I go by ID, delete that. Yeah, maybe I need to rerun this in order to make it work. Let's see. No columns found in our table. Yep, let's test this out from the beginning until this step. So I'm just going to go back here, delete this table, and just test this workflow. Remove that. Okay, that is, and n8n isn't happy about that. So let's just test this from start to finish. Hit the button there. And if we go here, this should have created the table right there. And we have the item right here. So let's keep going from here. Okay, sweet. So let's reconnect this to our table here. And what we're going to do is create a record. So essentially we want to create a new record each time this DeepSeek node outputs something. And that will always be the chapter name and the chapter outline. So if we look here, we have the chapter name, which is the split out item, and the outline, which we'll get from here. So create outlines for the chapter. So let's have a look. Create a chapter outline for this. And that's the book topic. Okay, great. Chapter 1, chapter 2. What I don't like though here is that it seems to have generated, so instead of the subtopics for this chapter, not sure why this seems to be like chapter 1, chapter 2. Let's try this again. Create a chapter outline for this topic within a book about this bigger topic. The chapter topic is called this, so chapter 1. The book is the coding and nuances. Okay, there's the example. Let's add a couple of rules. Remember, you're only writing the outline for this particular chapter. Okay, let's test the step again. Let's unpin that. And let's remove that for now. So this should be writing 10, or should be producing 10 items, because we're giving it 10 items right here. And if that works successfully, then we'll be able to write the chapter name and the specific chapter outline in our Airtable. So let's see. We'll give that some time to finish. And here I'm running into a couple of issues. So what I want to do is essentially fix these issues. And this is something similar to what we had right here, where we gave it exactly what we wanted to create. So I'm going, just grab that, go back here, and over here we have the example. And let's just say that the output should be like topic, or I don't know, sub chapter 1.1. And let's copy this a few times until we get to whatever, 12. Let's at 11. Let's put this at 2. And that should be pretty much it. So example 1.1, 1.2. Let's see if this would work. So here, this should give it 10 items. And possibly what we could do is add a limit here in order to test this quicker the next time around. But let's see if this will actually work. Okay, great. So here we got the information back from DeepSeek. And we got our 10 items back. So we got the first one, the second, the third, fourth, etc. So 9.1, 9.2. So we got all the information back with the different chapters. Great. So now essentially what we want to do is save this information in our Airtable. So we want to write the chapter name and the chapter outline. So all that remains is to connect this to Airtable, create a record. We're going to choose our n8n book YouTube. The list will be, technically now this needs to be by ID, because So let's just choose the URL for now, or the name, but then we need to switch to by ID, simply because this will need to be mapped to the Airtable that would be created over here in the request. So this should be that. Okay, great. So the chapter name will be this right here. The outline will be this right here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Chapter detail we don't need to add. The format of text we don't need to add. That should be pretty much it. So now if we test the step, we should see these two columns start to get populated. Perfect. We got this subchapter, colon. I mean, I don't mind that because this is for internal use. But this will be, we'll need to remove this when we are building the detail chapter. And then we'll just be left with this information right here. So nonsense, okay. What I don't necessarily like is that I would like to get some more information here. So let's just adapt this to be slightly better. So over here, if I go to ChatGPT, I'm just going to adapt the prompt and the output that I will give it. So for this chapter, or for this chapter, actually, let me think. Or 10.1, do I need, or do I want to have subtopics within that? I mean, no, not really, because that's already like 10 subtopics within a chapter. And then each of these can be its own section. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. I'm good. So if we just delete the record that was there, we are left with this table, which has the chapter names. And within that same record, for each chapter, we get the difference of chapters. So let's try this start to finish with a new book here to see if this will work. So let's go to my n8n here. And we save this. Let's hit test work. Actually, let's unpin everything. So pinned, unpin. And let's just test this. So this is waiting for a trigger. So if we go here, let's go with the book called Correcting the Word. One misused phrase at a time. So let's go here to my book writer. And if I go back here, this has already created the chapters. Now it's creating the outlines for those chapters, and then it will save it to our table. So the power of language, common misused phrases, grammar myths, and why they persist. Great. And now it should have created the chapters as well. So we have the table, great, with the chapters, and each of them has their own subtopics. So perfect. So this is working as expected. So that was the second part in this 5-part video series, where we took a book idea, we created the different chapters in it, and we created the subtopics for each of these chapters. In the next part of this series, we're going to go through each of these chapters and actually write the full version of that. So be sure not to miss out on that. And if you haven't watched the first part, I would suggest you go back to it and check it out. In the meantime, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss future videos, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.